I just got this Elgato 4K Pro, and this is a new product, and it's confusing because of the naming that Elgato uses. Before this, there was a 4K 60 MK2, and then they released this recently, and it looks pretty much the same. It has a few big differences. One is that this bracket is all you get. They no longer include the small bracket. If you have a low profile case, you can't use this. And you might be able to use the bracket from the other one if you find one on eBay or something, but it's not included. And I'm gonna actually walk through the options for this thing. And so first of all, I have an Alienware M16R2 laptop plugged in to the input port. So my HDMI signal is going into this 4K Pro from my Alienware. And then I have a little Dell 1080p monitor as the output. And you can see the first issue right away is Passthrough does not work. And I haven't found any solution for this. And I've tried different HDMI cables. There's just no Passthrough. And other people have the same issues, so it might be a hardware problem. This is kind of a new product, and there's only a few reviews out there. I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen any reviews pointing out that issue, but I have found threads on like Reddit and places like that. And the response from Elgato, or I guess Corsair, is just, update your drivers or whatever. But I've got the newest drivers and everything, so so that's not the issue. But anyway, so that doesn't work, so I'm going to return this regardless, but I do want to show some of the options that you actually have when you're using this thing. So in Elgato 4K Capture Utility, you hit that little gear icon. And so on this first page, I don't know what the Streamlink thing is, but I'm going to go to the Device tab. And it doesn't let me choose because I unplugged. I also have a USB HD 60X, and I was expecting it to show up, but I unplugged it, so I don't want to create any confusion. But you've got a few options in here. You can choose your color range, bypass, or expand or shrink, and that's mainly having to do with consoles, which sometimes will have a restricted color range, and some TVs prefer a restricted color. So rather than red, green, and blue each having 8 bits, there's a restricted range of those bits. And so if your color looks faded or something like that, it could be an issue with color range. So you can experiment with this setting, and I have it because that's not an issue for me. The next option on here is this EDID mode. And I don't know what EDID stands for, but what it is the display settings, and I think the identifier of your screen. Like, that's the EDID. And it can either pass that through from the monitor or the TV you have plugged in, or it can give it its own. And I'm using the internal. If you use display, it'll present what the screen has, and that would limit your resolution and stuff like that. And the reason I'm using internal is that I actually want to use 4K output so I can record in 4K even though the screen is only 1080. So that would be one use case for using internal. But what's interesting is it can, of course, read the display one. So let me hit that, and it's gonna reset the input. And it'll take a while because the laptop has to figure out what it's plugged into there. And so if I hit OK, and now I'm controlling my laptop. And there's a lag, so it's that's interesting. It's seeing 4K. I'm not sure why, but let me switch to extend. Maybe that'll change things. Okay, so that number 2 display is the plugged in one, or the HDMI one. And so yeah, now it's restricted to 1920 by 1080. And if I go to my, by the way, there's still nothing being passed through. It says no HDMI signal. Drag that window. Oh, it's confusing because the positions are swapped. So if I select that Dell, so you can see it's showing the EDID, I guess, from that Dell monitor, and you get the 1080p, etc. So it is seeing that monitor. There's just no signal coming out. And here's what's weird is, okay, defaults to limited, and let's make sure that actually works. Yeah, so it works as it should on that end, but then the monitor is still blank. There's no signal going to it. Okay, so let me actually switch back, because I think this is more interesting, is the internal, and I'm not sure what merged does, but let me switch back to internal, and then you can choose what options you want to present as your resolution. So you could set 1440p or 1280 by 800, but I'm going to choose 4K 240. And of course the laptop has to re-figure out its output. And I can hit OK. And then on the laptop I can check my NVIDIA control panel again. And everything is as it was set before. So I think it remembers the screen. So that's good. I can now show the other thing I wanted to show, which is the sound options. So I'm going to show the options that that Alienware laptop sees for its sound. So you can do these options, and usually you want to do 24-bit 48,000 hertz, and then you can test it, make sure it works. Host computer on my recording computer, if I go to sound, I can choose that. See, it shows up as a microphone, and it has all the options that a mic has. And then the format, it only shows in grayed out 2-channel 16-bit 48 kilohertz. So it seems like it's converting that 24 kilohertz or that 24-bit signal to 16-bit, and I don't know what that conversion entails. But to me that's an issue, because you always want to have as close to your source material as possible. You don't want to be downsampling anything, whether it's kilohertz resolution of your video or your bits of your sound. So that seems to be an issue also with Blackmagic devices, because I have an Intensity 4K Pro, and I also have a Blackmagic HDMI 3G, I think it's called, that you can record through Thunderbolt, and those also only show 16-bit. So I'm not sure what the deal is. If you're outputting 24-bit, you want to record 24-bit is my thing. So I think I've shown all the options that I wanted to show. Maybe I should show how it actually appears in OBS. So this is going to be weird because I'm on OBS recording what I'm doing now. Okay, so this is going to be weird because I'm recording myself, but I also have OBS open and I'm showing you OBS. So let me go to my, so I can add it by doing plus and then video capture device. This is weird because I'm recording myself on OBS right now and I'm showing you my OBS. So what I'm going to do is add video capture device and hit OK, and I'm going to choose Elgato 4K Pro. And then I'm going to, and you can choose some options. Usually you want to leave that as default. And then your color space, you can choose some of these things, or leave them as default. Should be fine, but if you have issues with your color range, you can fix that here. And usually you want to use capture audio, and that still lets you monitor. But you can also force the monitoring through this, basically. So I'm just going to leave that as the default. And now I could, like if I drag this to below my other stuff. So that's the main issues I have with it, is the 16-bit sound and then the complete lack of pass-through. Hopefully this is helpful to some folks.